show you just a little piece of code, something we're working on at work. Then I could either talk about hardware equipment I'm working on, teletypes, or I could talk about ham radio stuff. So it's a little bit deviation from all technical. But let me start with the little piece of code that we're wrestling with. It should be on this screen. Okay, we have a situation, and I don't have a mouse, so I'm not going to be fast here, but we have on the left column what we call a store, and we have 13 top categories. But it turns out we have about 2,000 subcategories. And the question is how can we make that accessible to users very quickly and very logically and very simply by just moving their mouse? And so I use Perl to take the database and create HTML. It's all nested. And with just a little bit of code, we now have it where you can hover. And I can't show this well with a mouse, but let's go up here. If I go down quickly, this is going to be tough. Anyway, everything's built with time.
I have a mouse right here.
Oh, that would make it a lot better. Thank you. Let's see if it'll take it.
That mouse actually is a USB stick. It's now injecting a virus on your system.
Probably. It's working hard on it.
I wouldn't be that overt.
You think I need to do anything? No, it's. I don't have. You think I should plug it out and back in? Let's try it one more time. Yeah, okay. No, okay. That's not working. But I'll have to describe it. But everything's done with time so that if I go down and I hit another one, it doesn't trigger. Because a lot of times when you're going through menus, you accidentally go out of the area and it comes and you're flipping around. And so we've done time. What is this doing? Sorry. Let's go back here. I see, it's because I'm using this device. It's think I'm clicking. But anyway, as I move around, it follows you. And some of these go quite deep. Let's take this one. Sorry, I missed. Boy, it's hard without a mouse. So if I get over here, and now it starts going the other way. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
And it keeps going. Let's see if I can get.
3 layers deep now.
Sorry. Now what's nice about this is if I go out and come back in, I don't lose it. So I can go out and come over here, and I don't lose what I'm working with, because this is it's registering a click. When you click, you go to that node. So you basically can hover till you find what you want. But anyway, it allows you to very quickly go through thousands of categories in a very organized manner. Anyway, something we haven't released it yet, but we're still experimenting. We got it to work with the iPad and iPhone and everything. Again, I know it's not responsive, but at least we have it all working. And it's much better in our current system, which is just stays on the left side and you can't tell where you are and where you're going and where you've been. Okay, so that was a little bit of technical stuff. Enough of that. Should have brought a mouse. Sorry about that. Now, do you guys want to know about ham radio, or do you want to know about teletypes? Okay.
I'm known for ham radio.
Maybe we'll do both fast. Well, let me just show you. I do this for fun. This is a machine I recently completed. These are. How am I going to scroll this thing? I don't know how to scroll. Let's see.
Down arrow.
Boy, that's going to be tough.
Space bar.
Let's see.
Space bar should do it.
It's going the wrong way. I've never, sorry guys, I wish I had a mouse. Let's try this. Okay, that's a little better. So this is the beginning of the machine. And I forgot to take a before picture, but it's fairly before. And then I basically tear it down to nothing. These were the original data equipment machines used to communicate. They were actually developed before computers, and they were designed to communicate over telephones. Oh, great, we got a mouse now, and we got a scroll. So this is the base pan. This is the electrical unit. This machine was fairly clean, but like parts would be broken. Like this is a plate that covers part of the electronics. So I bought this on eBay and I cut it to size, and basically I've replaced that part that was broken. But I go through the whole machine looking for anything that's out of whack, burnt, you know. For example, here's the keyboard, and these keys are all oxidized. Many of them are cracked, and so I went through and you polish them up and you replace those that are cracked. And
What did you replace them with? Is it
you can
you
still,
have bags of them or something?
no, there's some people that, it's a small group, 100 people worldwide, but there's a couple guys that have some inventory that's getting sparse. So like maybe I had 10 keys I needed, he had 9. So you find an old keyboard and you take the old one off and you reuse it. But these are all designed to be replaced. So like this is the bad key and I pull it off. Here's the under part, and then this is the new key, you just push it on. And it's spring loaded. The other nice thing is that white is not painted. It goes down about 1/4 of an inch. So you could use these keys for 100 years and they'll still say line feed very clearly. This is that same keyboard after all the keys have been cleaned up. This cardboard is a technique to get the cover plate on, which is really hard. And if you notice here, this is an empty spot, and I really needed an escape key. So I talked to some guys, and they said, well, the escape key's in there, you just don't have the key in the arm. So I worked at it, and I was able to add one, and I may see that in a subsequent picture. So now I'm reassembling machine. And this is another thing, I take notes as I take it apart. Every step is documented. You know, remove this connector, and I draw a little picture, and I say what screws I'm undoing, and I might have 80 steps as I take it apart, and then I reassemble it. Everything's put in little bags. So if the 4 screws for step 4, they're in the bag that's labeled 4. Then I needed a ribbon, so here I'm re-inking this ribbon, and then I finally had it working. This is the inside of the cupboard cabinet. I needed to get new light bulbs. I bought those, and then now I'm testing it with some data equipment to verify everything's working. This lets you see exactly what's going back and forth as the ASCII characters. And here I added this new key, escape, so that I can send that out. I needed that for some software I'm doing. This just shows some of the underside gearing. These are clutches. There's one there, one there, one there. There's another one here. There's probably a few more. And on September, well, it's pretty recent, about a month and a half ago, I got it running. And this is it. Now it's done. So that is one I did. And I'm right now working on a new one. That one's about 90 pounds. This one's about 225 pounds. It's a little more advanced model, and it's in pretty good shape already. I built a special platform to wheel it around on. Makes it much easier to move these guys around. And then I started disassembling this guy. They're very modular. Like this is a modular tape reader. This is a modular tape punch. This is a modular keyboard and a modular printer, and then the electrical unit in the back. So it's more coming apart. You saw it was clean, but look what's underneath there. This is all degraded foam from oil. And you got to just take all that out, and now I've cleaned it up. And each part, you pretty much clean and oil. This is that base pan. I haven't done anything to it, so it's like the paint looks brand new. And I even wash and wax the cabinet. And this is interesting. This is a door that goes right here on the front panel. The unit's upside down right now, and this information tells you when you open the door how to take the top off. This is the tape reading unit. There's about 600 parts in just this item, and all it does is read the tape. Yeah, I had to get some very small tools because some of these nuts are very hard to get to. But they work great, these small tools. I take everything apart as much as I can. I took the motor apart. I was having a problem with this shaft rubbing, and it turns out it was in this clutch, so we got that fixed. Then I'm redoing the whole keyboard on this one too. This one, somebody had cleaned the keyboard with a screwdriver and a piece of cloth, and they had scratched the cover. So I had to sand it all down and then buff it up, and now it looks brand new again. These components were starting to leak, and I went to another machine that had the exact same component leaking. So it could be a problem in the design, but anyway, I had to replace them. So I replaced those. And I was able to find the same part from the same manufacturer, which is hard to do. This just shows you the side of one of the units. All these little things, these are pieces of felt that oil goes into. So you got to oil all these guys, and they're in various places. And then all these pieces of metal are steel, but they're nickel plated. These machines were designed to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year long. And so like you'll notice there's no rust anywhere. These machines have lots of oil in the air, which keeps them not rusty, but it's the nickel plating that helps on everything. This here is a device which is a vertical tab. So you can, everybody knows horizontal tab, but you can also on these machines, vertical tabs, you say go up 5 lines, go up 10 lines, go to the next page. And you set those by taking these little tabs and rotating them up or down, depending on whether you want it to stop. And this happens to be the page tab. These are lines. And then if...
It was 66 or 70 or something like that?
Yeah, and you can't quite read the numbers, but it says 11 over here, and that's 5.5 inches, and this is 11. So if you took that out, it would do the whole page.
Yeah.
Or if you have this one, now it's got you going to do half pages on the page feed. Then this is the same kind of mechanism, but horizontal tab. So you can see those little things there that let you adjust. So you could have, a 5-space tab and then a 10, 7, whatever you wanted. And so now I'm...
The analogy of the tab from the actual physical tab.
Yeah, there he is.
Tabs really are replaced by space.
So anyway, now I am putting this machine back together now that it's all cleaned up. And I'll probably have it back together in maybe a couple weeks. So you mentioned ham. I'll just go quickly through some slides there, if I have time. Do I have time?
Go for it.
Okay. A year and a half ago, my kids and I decided we were going to get in. I kind of decided for my kids, but we're going to get into ham radio because I wanted to keep them busy, get them away from the electronic machines, and all these things that are just time wasters. So this is the most advanced part. It's the amateur extra. And these are just some of the example questions. It took us a year to get to this point, and then another half year we passed the extra. But these are like, what is the phase angle between the voltage across the current through a series RLC circuit if XC is 100 ohms, R is 100, and XL is 75 ohms. So that's just one example. And there were 700 questions. And you had to know, you were given 50 randomly, and you had to get 37 of them right. And took us a while, but we were able to do it, and including my 11-year-old, my 14-year-old, and myself. So these are my 2 kids, and we would every Wednesday go have dinner, study, and then we would go to class. And these are ham guys who are teaching how this stuff works. And very interesting gentleman. This gentleman here was another teacher. I never met anyone who could explain electronics and concepts, math concepts, as well as this guy. It was amazing what he did. This is his house with all his antennas. And he's got a slide rule. We went and visited him and looked at his station. Then we're starting to put together an antenna, one of our antennas. Stephen helped me get some of the parts from the store. These are just some structures to hold up some of the ends of the wires. This is the Ham Radio Club in Salt Lake City. And the instructors were complaining that I was making the antenna beautiful before I even knew if it would work. And they said that's backwards. Usually you make it work and then you try to make it pretty. So I couldn't really argue with them. So this is another part of the antenna we're working on. This is our kitchen. You can see we got teletype parts here, and we got teletype parts here, and we got teletype parts here, and all over the house. This is the instructor that I told you explained math concepts and radio very well. This is him when he did a science fair, and he didn't win anything, but this was actually a binary adding machine that he did with relays and switches. 1958 was when he did that. One of the things we did is we went on a field trip to visit this guy's radio station, and this is just some of the things he's collected over time. He also had a teletype, and he could work it over the air where you can get a radio signal, and it turns out to printing the information. Very few people can do that now. It's really pretty rare. This is his amplifier. He bought, when he was in college, he bought for $100 this amplifier. I think it was from Utah State or
Come off of the USS Missouri or something?
Well, it was from Western Electric, and it was used like point-to-point radio communications, like from here to Japan, and very expensive phone calls, and totally directional antennas. And it could go up to 10,000 watts of transmit power. He has it where he can go up to 5, but he throttles it down. He's got a little meter here, because amateur radio, you can only do 1,500 watts. But this thing has 78 tubes. It's just a fascinating machine. It takes 3-phase power. He's got a motor that generates that runs a generator that creates the electricity he needs, that then runs this. He's got venting in his house so that it can heat his house if it's winter time. But it's an amazing machine. All these doors have to be locked before you can turn it on because of the voltages. And then over here, these are the transmit frequencies. You can have up to 10, where he can actually tune the machine for the various bands. It takes about 13 seconds to switch between bands. This machine cost about $50,000. Oh, I'd say 1950. And the same thing today is about $500,000 to get a 10,000 watt transmitter. This is just one of the tubes in there. This is his antenna. That's one of them. He also has a phased array in this lot over there. This is his test bench. A lot of great equipment here. This guy knows what he's doing. When I talked about his phased array, these are 160 feet vertical antennas, and the way they do it is they phase the signal as it's being received and sent to them, so you can actually listen in 4 directions around the world. And
Do you need license to have an antenna like this at all?
No, well, you have to have an amateur radio license, which he has and we have. So my kids, we were over at his house and we were talking to Chile and Australia and so forth. And here's my kid. He wanted to get home to work on his models. So we're working on our antenna. Again, we're really crude, but we're putting it up. And it's designed to go up and down. He thinks it's funny drinking out of a flask. Then we took the amateur extra tests, and it's held at a house in Salt Lake. And here's Stephen getting his certificate that he passed the exam. These are the two instructors. And then we are pouring some concrete to hold these poles. And there it is up there. So that's about 25 feet up there. We have one on each side. And then, let's go here. Then we have, this is for lightning. If lightning strikes, it comes in and goes down to these ground posts versus into the house. This is eliminates some interference on the lead that comes in, so you do that. And we took a break. Those are boring. Okay, we're starting to put our station together. And now it's up. It goes another 2 feet. This is for local talking, and then these wires coming down will be for long distance. So now you can see they're spreading out. It turns out we are nowhere near as powerful as the guys with large machines, and we're going to probably end up building a tower and doing a much better antenna. But at least we are in the air and we can do stuff now. And that's it. That's the current station right now. This is what we need. We need a 60-foot tower, a beam antenna, a rotor, amplifier, better transceiver, and a shelf.
Very nice.
So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.